The train from Galway slowed as it entered the heart of Dublin. Rain kissed the windows, painting the city with silver streaks. Aoife, a young historian from Cork, stepped onto the platform with a notebook clutched to her chest. She had been invited to study an unusual manuscript recently uncovered in the archives of Trinity College. The parchment was said to contain stories that had never been told, a secret that tied the ancient and the modern together. Her boots echoed on the cobblestones as she walked through the narrow lanes of the city. The scent of roasted coffee and the sound of fiddles drifting from taverns greeted her. Yet, amidst the charm, she felt something else. Eyes following her, a whisper of danger beneath the warmth of Dublin's lights. At the college, she was met by Professor Donnelly, a man with graying hair and a voice that carried both wisdom and worry. He placed the manuscript before her. Its leather cover was cracked, its edges burnt as if it had once survived a fire. This, the professor said quietly, was not meant to be found. But now that it is, we must be careful. Stories can awaken things long thought forgotten. Aoife touched the cover and felt a tremor run through her fingertips. The manuscript pulsed, almost alive. She drew in a sharp breath, unaware that this was only the beginning of a path that would take her far beyond the streets of Dublin, into the shadowed landscapes of Ireland where myth and truth intertwined. The manuscript's pages were brittle, their ink faded, yet still sharp enough to stir unease. Aoife turned each leaf slowly, tracing lines of Gaelic script she had only seen in fragments before. But between a text, she noticed something stranger. Tiny etchings like maps or symbols, carved into the parchment as though the ink had been layered upon another secret. Professor Donnelly leaned closer, his brow furrowed. "It is older than we thought. The script belongs to the monks of Clonmacnoise. But these markings, they do not belong to any monastery." That night, Aoife returned to her lodging near the River Liffey. Rain drummed against the glass, drowning the city in rhythm. She could not sleep. The manuscript haunted her. She laid it open on the desk and lit a single candle. Slowly, she rubbed chalk across the page. Faint outlines revealed themselves, a circle, intersected by lines pointing north, west, and south. A map of Ireland, but not as it was now. The circle's heart was marked by a single name, Connacht. A cold gust blew through her room, though the windows were shut. The candle flickered. Somewhere in the darkness, she thought she heard a whisper calling her name. Aoife shut the manuscript at once. Yet when she lay in bed, her mind raced. What awaited in Connacht? And why had the map been hidden from history for so long? The morning brought gray skies and restless winds. Aoife boarded a bus bound for the west, the manuscript hidden safely in her satchel. The city faded, replaced by rolling fields and misty hills. Sheep dotted the landscape, their stillness eerie as the bus wound deeper into Ireland's wild heart. At a quiet stop near Tuam, she disembarked. The village seemed frozen in time. Old stone cottages leaned against one another, their chimneys breathing pale smoke. She was met by a local guide, a wiry man named Kieran, who had been recommended by Professor Donnelly. "You're looking for ruins?" he asked, eyeing her satchel with suspicion. "Something like that," Aoife replied carefully. Kieran led her through bogland, where the earth was dark and wet beneath their boots. He spoke little, though his glances grew more uneasy as they neared the old abbey ruins. The stones stood like broken teeth against the horizon, swallowed by ivy and silence. Inside the ruin, Aoife placed the manuscript on a cracked altar. She opened to the map. The markings aligned eerily with the stones around her. When she spoke the name etched in the circle, the air grew heavier. A low rumble trembled beneath the earth. Kieran backed away, whispering, "This place, it was never meant to be disturbed." The evening fog rolled across the abbey ruins, cloaking them in silver shadow. Aoife and Kieran lit lanterns, their glow fragile against the thickening mist. Somewhere in the haze, footsteps echoed. Aoife spun, heart pounding. "Did you hear that?" Kieran raised his lantern, his face pale. "We are not alone." Shapes moved in the fog. Not men, not fully. Shadows with elongated limbs and hollow eyes. They circled silently, as though testing the strength of the light. Aoife clutched the manuscript tighter, sensing the creatures were bound to it. Then, one stepped closer. Its face was carved like stone, its voice a rasp. "The words you hold are not yours. Return them, or be consumed." Aoife stood firm though her knees trembled. She whispered to Kieran, "Do not look them in the eye." Together, they retreated, step by step, until the ruins were behind them. The fog thinned as they fled, but the echo of that voice lingered in the night. Aoife knew then. She had awakened something that would not rest until it reclaimed what had been hidden. Guided by the manuscript, they traveled north to Loch Corrib. The lake stretched vast and black under a stormy sky, its waters swallowing the light of day. Kieran hired a small boat, its wooden oars creaking as they rowed into the open. The manuscript symbols grew clearer under the shifting light. Aoife realized the circle on the map matched the shape of an island at the lake's center. In silence, they steered towards it. When they reached the island, they found stone cairns arranged in spirals. The air was heavy with the smell of damp moss and something older, something untouched by centuries. Aoife placed the manuscript on one of the stones. Immediately, the water around the island began to ripple, as if stirred by unseen hands. From the depths rose a column of mist, forming the shape of a woman draped in ancient robes. Her eyes glowed faintly, neither kind nor cruel. "You seek the truth," the apparition said. "But truth is never given. It is taken, piece by piece, at great cost." The vision dissolved, leaving only silence. Aoife and Kieran exchanged a glance. Whatever lay ahead would demand more from them than they had yet imagined. The journey carried them westward, to the mountains of Connemara. Villages whispered of strange dreams haunting their people, of voices at night calling from the hills. Aoife listened, realizing the manuscript's influence was spreading. One evening, they sought shelter in a small inn. As Aoife slept, her dreams turned vivid. She found herself walking ancient halls lit by torches, monks chanting in forgotten tongues. At the center, a cloaked figure stood, holding the manuscript. When he lifted his hood, his eyes were hollow voids. "You cannot escape what is bound to you," the figure intoned. "Each page you turn is a thread pulled tighter." She woke gasping, the manuscript lying open beside her though she had left it closed. The ink on its pages shifted like water, forming images of places she had not yet seen. One was unmistakable, the cliffs of Moher, where the ocean thundered endlessly against stone. Aoife knew their path was being chosen for them. The cliffs rose like giants, sheer and unforgiving against the roar of the Atlantic. Wind howled through the grass, tugging at their coats as Aoife and Kieran stood at the edge. The manuscript directed them here, but gave no clue what to seek. Kieran knelt, brushing away soil until he uncovered a stone tablet carved with spirals. He pressed it, and the ground trembled. A fissure split open, revealing a hidden stair carved into the rock. Lantern in hand, Aoife descended. The stairs led into a cavern where ocean spray seeped through cracks. At the cavern's heart stood a stone pillar, upon which rested a fragment of another manuscript, torn from the hole. As Aoife reached for it, the shadows returned. They poured into the cavern like smoke, voices hissing. She snatched the fragment, feeling its weight fuse with the original. Light burst from the pages, scattering the shadows. But their cries echoed. "It is not yours. You cannot hold it." Aoife staggered back, knowing this was only one piece of a greater whole. They sought refuge in a farmhouse beyond the cliffs. The fire crackled, warmth battling the chill that clung to their bones. Kieran sat across from Aoife, silent for a long while before speaking. "You do not understand," he said at last. "The manuscript, my family has guarded its secret for centuries. It was never meant to be touched by outsiders." Aoife's heart sank. "You knew all along." Kieran's eyes glimmered with something between guilt and resolve. "I thought I could guide you, protect you. But the truth is, you are drawing it back to life. And I cannot allow that." Before she could react, he snatched the manuscript. Aoife lunged, But Kieran was already at the door, vanishing into the stormy night. She stood trembling, betrayed, the firelight casting her shadow long across the room. The story was slipping beyond her grasp. Rain lashed the land as Aoife pursued Kieran across the wild countryside. Lightning split the sky, illuminating his figure as he vanished into the woods. The manuscript pulsed in his arms, its power seeping into the storm itself. She chased him through mud and thorns until they reached a ruined tower overlooking the sea. Wind howled through its broken stones, the ocean raging below. Kieran raised the manuscript high, his voice almost not his own. It must return to where it came. If it consumes me to keep it hidden, so be it. Aoife stepped closer, shouting above the storm. You do not understand. Destroying it will not end it. It will only break free. For a moment, his eyes cleared, torn between loyalty and fear. But the shadows surged again, swirling around them both. The manuscript's pages tore open, releasing a torrent of dark light. Aoife realized there was no turning back. The final choice would be made here. The tower shook as the storm raged. Shadows writhed, clawing at stone and flesh alike. Aoife lunged, seizing the manuscript from Kieran's weakening grip. The power coursed through her veins, burning, searing, as though the voices of centuries screamed within her. The apparition of the robed woman rose once more, towering above them. The truth is yours to claim, but it comes at a price. Aoife felt the shadows tearing at her. She thought of Dublin, of the people in villages plagued by dreams, of history itself. She clutched the manuscript and spoke the words etched deepest in its pages. Light erupted, blinding and pure, shattering the shadows into nothingness. The tower crumbled, stones falling into the roaring sea. When the storm cleared, only silence remained. Aoife stood on the cliff's edge, the manuscript heavy in her arms. Kieran lay unconscious nearby, spared but broken. The wind whispered across the land, carrying with it the sense that something had ended, yet something far older had just begun.